As we navigate year 3 of this pandemic, many of us have reevaluated what is important in life.
Careers shifted, health became a priority, and for many, the American dream seemed to slip away as bills piled up on the kitchen table. But for one Kewaunee County man, the American dream is all he's ever wanted.
In a story you'll only see here on Action 2 News, Brittany Schmidt introduces us to 24-year-old Servando Garcia, the American dreamer.
And I see the vallecula. Tube secured. I decided to go into EMS because of a near-death experience.
While waiting at a traffic light on the way to a college class, Servando Garcia saw a vehicle in his rear view mirror fast approaching.
Like 40, 60 miles an hour. Just looked behind me and I thought, it's gonna hit me.
Fearing for the worst.
Well, I just closed my eyes. I, just kind of thought about everything that was happening in my life, and next thing I know, I hear the sound of metal just crunching and just broken glass and honking of the horn. It seemed like it took forever, and in reality it was just a few seconds, and I opened my eyes and I was okay.
You were okay?
Yeah.
But the SUV next to him,
it swerved at the last second,
was not okay.
I called 911 and I went out and I was just kind of frozen. I was never actually in this situation before. I didn't really know exactly what to do.
That feeling of helplessness.
The cars were just wrecked. And I was just thinking, what do I do?
Is something he never wants to experience again.
It was just a moment that really opened my eyes, and I said, I have to do something about this. I'm going to become a firefighter medic. And 2 weeks later, I packed my bags and I signed up for an accelerated program at Hennepin County Medical Center for an EMT course.
After graduating as a first-generation college student at St. Norbert College, he immediately applied to Northeast Wisconsin Technical College's paramedic program.
And I got accepted, and I had just like 2 months of vacation, and then I went back to school. And we'll secure this. QRS complex is marked.
I see Servando usually about once every 2 or 3 weeks here in the simulation lab, always with a group of individuals. So he's always willing to interact, always a positive individual, always willing to offer an educational aspect of things because he comes with so much knowledge that even if I'm not there to help another fellow student, he's always willing to.
That motivation, Bauer says, sets him apart.
Press hold.
So too does his attendance record.
I remember one time that there was a snowstorm and he was, a couple minutes late to his normal early time. He's like, I'm sorry, I'm late. I'm like, class hasn't even started. He's like, I know, but I like to get here. I like to be prepared.
Greg Lexo says he sees that same passion in Servando.
Feel the thyroid cartilage.
Out in the field during his internship.
He's one that I believe is going to be one of those that's going to be able to de-escalate the situation very easily. Calm the situation down, that's what we're really looking for, and be able to make those right decisions and proper patient care.
If that isn't enough to keep his wheels turning, he's also a volunteer firefighter, works full-time, and hopes to get into medical school one day.
My parents, like I said, they weren't able to pursue the education that they wanted to, and they weren't giving that option. So I'm very, very fortunate to be able to pursue education.
But college isn't cheap, so he applied for an EMS EMT scholarship provided by the Baycare Clinic Foundation with the support of Aurora Baycare Medical Center.
At the last minute, I decided to apply for it.
In his letter,
in times of hopelessness, I remember how far I have come.
He describes growing up in Luxembourg, Casco.
Proud to call myself a Spartan.
As the first Spanish-speaking Hispanic student.
I'm the son of 2 immigrants who came to the United States in 1999.
But that, too, wasn't easy.
My classmates would say, you can't speak English, or you have a weird accent. And sometimes it was just hard to make friends just because I wasn't able to carry on full conversations with them.
Right.
So Servando turned to cartoons for help.
Are you ready, kids?
That's kind of how I learned English, watching, episodes like SpongeBob.
We did it, Patrick! We saved the city!
Or Dora the Explorer,
Do you see the farmer's market? ¿Dónde está?
Along with ESL, a class for students learning English as a second language.
Every single day I would do my assignments, because I had my assignments from class, and then I also had my assignments from that, that program.
From the ESL program.
Yep. So, yeah, so I would
So like
learn
double the work.
You're right, yeah.
Just to fit in. But once again, that sense of belonging came to a screeching halt.
I was 15 and I was, excited to go and start driver's ed.
When he tried to get his driver's license, he found out he is an undocumented immigrant.
For me, the biggest issue was like, how am I going to drive to school? I didn't even think about, oh, I'm not a U.S. citizen. I was just like, I just wanted to fit in. I thought, it's like, I can't drive. Everyone's driving and I can't, so I'm going to get singled out.
But reality soon set in.
I was scared that suddenly one day I would be deported to a country I barely knew.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Under President Barack Obama's administration, Servando was eligible to apply for DACA, Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. It doesn't grant him legal status or a pathway to residency or citizenship, but it does allow him to get a driver's license, social security number, and a work permit.
Just remember getting the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, that approval. That day I was just in tears, because I thought, finally, like, I'm able to move forward, I'm able to work, I'm able to go to college, I'm able to follow the American dream.
And at 15 years old, that meant one thing.
I was able to get my license, I was able to go on with my classmates and start driver's ed right away.
That quickly turned to higher education, where he ran into another speed bump.
We can't qualify for loans, we don't qualify for FAFSA or financial aid or grants. We don't qualify for any of that. So we have to apply for scholarships and we have to work and we have to figure out a way to pay it.
Servando writes about this in his scholarship letter, about how his parents saved as much as possible to help him pay for college.
I felt guilty because at St. Norbert I had the unlimited meal plan and I could eat whatever I wanted. I felt terrible because my family avoided eating out and buying things like snacks for my sisters. Every single semester I wanted to drop out because I knew that it was the cost of my education that was to blame for my family's suffering.
But it was his parents' sacrifices.
He still works long hours. I mean, he puts like 80 hours a week, at least, just so that I can go to school.
That kept his American dream alive.
16, 17, 18.
A dream of becoming a community-oriented physician and helping people.
So I'm going to insert an OPA.
Which is fitting in itself, as his name, Servando, in Spanish, means to serve.
One of the reasons why I want to be a doctor is because I wasn't insured and I wasn't able to access medical care. And I think medical care is just a human right.
A human right he plans to push for, even if his future as a DACA recipient in this country,
it's a leap of faith,
is uncertain.
You just have to trust the process. Exactly what I'm doing right now is just trusting the system.
So for now, it's about staying in between the lines and keeping his eye on the American dream.
I'm going forward and I'm not sure what's going to happen in the future, but I'm not letting that stop me.
Servando Garcia is one of hundreds of thousands of DACA recipients who are unsure of what the future holds in a country they've only ever known as home. Tomorrow on Action 2 News at 10, we look into the court battle involving DACA from both sides, as well as other obstacles Servando and many like him face on a systemic level. Cami, Bill.
It's been 10 years since the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, or DACA program, went into effect. That's a federal program that made it possible for children brought to the U.S. illegally to stay here in the country.
In recent years, the program has faced many battles in court, leaving the futures of Servando Garcia and so many others like him uncertain. In a story you'll only see on Action 2 News, Brittany Schmidt takes a closer look at the current DACA court battle and what it means for American dreamers living in the only country they've ever known as home.
This is where I was raised. I was always in Kewaunee County.
Servando Garcia didn't learn he was an undocumented immigrant until he was a teenager.
I was 15 and I was, excited to go and start driver's ed, and then I found out that I wasn't eligible.
He was born in Mexico and came to the United States on a visa at 4 months old.
This was home. Well, I actually thought I was born here. I didn't really know that. I mean, my parents really never kind of wanted to tell me about that, just because they were afraid of how I would react.
But Servando didn't react, rather pushed forward, applying for DACA.
It was during that time that the Obama administration
Good afternoon, everybody.
came out with DACA, which is Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, and that made me actually eligible to get employment authorization and a social security number, and I was able to have kind of a status here where I would be able to work and study and get, my driver's license.
A sigh of relief for the then teenager, wanting so badly to just fit in with his peers.
And I was just in tears because I thought, finally, I'm able to move forward, I'm able to work, I'm able to go to college, I'm able to follow the American dream.
But the relief is short-lived.
There was a time where they were going to actually end DACA.
And they still could. Milwaukee immigration attorney John Cicini says the future of DACA is still uncertain as a lawsuit plays out in the 5th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals.
It was basically brought by several states saying that President Obama exceeded his authority in implementing DACA. So that's the uncertainty. What's going to happen in the future? Is this judge or any appeal judge, any appellate court, going to find that, the Obama administration did go above their power by implementing this DACA program?
If that were to become reality and DACA was terminated,
these individuals could be placed in removal proceedings, and many of them would not have any defense to stop deportation, to stop their removal from the United States.
More than 600,000 people are currently enrolled in DACA, including here in Northeast Wisconsin, as Cicini visits Casa Alba Melanie for free consultations.
Some of my more interesting cases come from Green Bay.
Really?
Yeah, or the Green Bay area, yes.
At his office in Milwaukee, he says he gets about 10 consults a week.
If I'm lucky to help 3 or 4, that's a good week.
Does that happen often?
Yeah.
But he didn't think, after all these years, DACA recipients would still be left just waiting.
It's just outrageous that that something has not been done to provide some type of permanent legal status to these individuals.
DACA doesn't automatically mean citizenship, correct?
No, it doesn't mean residency. Before you even get to citizenship, you have to have permanent residency. So there's no pathway right now to even obtain permanent residency for DACA recipients. And as you know, in July of last year, they put a hold on any further processing of new applications.
That hold remains as the lawsuit plays out in court. But because Servando is already a DACA recipient, he can continue to reapply.
So he can go until
Perpetuity. He could go forever. But who knows? You get a new administration who wants to be a little bit tougher on these issues. It affects these people.
Meanwhile, many DACA recipients try to continue life as normal, doing things like pursuing higher education. But they're doing that all without the help of federal loans, because due to their status, they can't apply for FAFSA.
Since I wasn't eligible for loans, it was just pretty much scholarships and working in order to complete my education. So that was always a huge barrier, wondering how I'm going to pay for school, how I'm going to finish.
Dr. Jeff Raffin, president of Northeast Wisconsin Technical College, says it's been that way for a long time.
Yes, it has. There have been a number of attempts to get that changed, but they've never quite made it all the way through.
Even he and other top local education leaders have tried.
At one point, there was an act called the DREAM Act that was up there, and the three heads of the higher ed institutions here, from St. Norbert, from the chancellor at UWGB at the time, and myself, had jointly put an editorial and opinion article on we should allow these folks to have, the financial aid.
But that DREAM Act back in 2010, which would have been a permanent solution for DACA recipients, giving them a pathway to residency and citizenship, never made it off the Senate floor.
The motion is not agreed to.
Failing to reach the 60-vote majority.
There's talk that if it was a private vote, that we would be over the 60, but that's where the DREAM Act is.
Leaving hundreds of thousands of DACA recipients in limbo.
That's the most controversial question. Well, that DACA student's not here legally, so, or their parents didn't come here legally, so we shouldn't be spending taxpayer dollars on them. What we often forget is that these parents and this gentleman himself may very well be working as migrants. They may be working in other ways, and they're paying taxes.
How do they pay taxes if they're undocumented?
Many will apply for a tax ID number.
But even if taxes are paid, DACA recipients are still deemed non-residents, meaning if they go to a state school, they have to pay out-of-state tuition. But private or community colleges,
they charge you the same price.
After graduating as a first-generation college student at St. Norbert College,
100 joules.
Servando went to Northeast Wisconsin Technical College for its paramedic program, another DACA-friendly school.
They worked with me. They were able to figure out how to pay for classes and apply for scholarships. They really helped me out. So I'm going to get a new set of vitals.
Last year, Servando won an Outstanding Program Student Award for his exceptional academic achievement and contributions in the paramedic program.
And why wouldn't we want a hardworking, dedicated individual who wants to improve themselves and increase their skill level? Why wouldn't we want them to be in our country?
In fact, Dr. Raffin says the community college likely has more students just like Servando.
You wonder how many of these DACA students have needs that are not being met at all, and when in fact we could have at least helped them through our own wraparound services or our. So you have to admire those who are able to make it through college.
When asked what needs to change from an academic level, Dr. Raffin says,
well, I don't think it's the education side. I think it's the political side.
Does it come down to politics?
Yes. Yes. It's in my opinion, it's absolutely shameful in these politicians who are playing games with these young people's lives.
What needs to happen?
You need people who have influence to influence the politicians. That's just the way it is. People need to vote and get these individuals out who don't want to govern, or at least have a common sense approach to immigration reform. And it doesn't mean that everyone gets to stay here, but there should be some type of common sense approach.
U.S. Republican Senator Ron Johnson of Oshkosh says that common sense approach includes securing the border before tackling DACA.
So what happens now with DACA? What would you like to see happen?
Well, again, we have to take the first step. We have to resecure the border, and that's what's so one of many tragedies about what the Biden administration has done is they've set back that possibility. I don't know how long. Maybe we can gain control of the border quickly with bipartisan support. Then we can actually address that. But again, it's not going to work to grant amnesty to people without securing the border, because you'll see those numbers skyrocket. This will just repeat time and time again and probably get worse and worse and worse.
On Wednesday, August 25th, the Biden administration revealed a new 453-page rule designed to codify DACA and strengthen it against legal challenges. However, it doesn't take effect until October 31st, and it doesn't create a permanent path to citizenship for young dreamers.
How do you stay positive?
I'm not nearly as positive as I used to be. In fact, I'm much more of a pessimist. I'm not positive that there is going to be any change in the near future.
So I keep fighting.
Well, I don't want to see these people get deported.
But the court battle won't likely be over anytime soon.
Whatever happens, you can be assured that there will be an appeal.
Sure. Either side.
On either side, there's going to be some type of an appeal. There's no question about that. I see it going to the Supreme Court, U.S. Supreme Court at some point. That's many, many years.
So until then,
keep hope alive, don't give up hope.
Hope coming from a pessimist.
Hope coming from a pessimist, exactly. Never give up hope.
On those really tough days, what does keep you going?
There are times where I just think of giving up. We're spending so much money for something that's not guaranteed, but my parents said sometimes you only have one chance at something. And I was given the chance to be able to go to school. And I was going to take advantage of that.
So Servando will keep chasing his American dream.
You just have to trust the process.
Until he's told otherwise.
If I work hard, if I follow the law, if I am an active member of the community, then one day I'll be able to have the same rights as my fellow classmates and fellow community members.
Right now, Servando is working as a paramedic for a local rescue community. He's a teaching assistant for the EMS program at NWTC, and he's taking courses to become a nurse in hopes of becoming a doctor one day. Although he's living life in limbo, he's going to keep going, just like hundreds of thousands of other DACA recipients here in the nation. He's going to keep chasing that American dream we all strive for every day. Bill, Cammie.